Classify a white person. What makes a white person white genetically?
That's very easy to look. Just look at the DNA. The DNA of white people says that they are from Europe. The DNA of most Hispanics says that they are largely from Latin America. They're Amerindians. No, white people, I don't think you have any difficulty distinguishing a white person from an American Indian, do you? White people are obviously white.
Well,
and if we wanted more white
Irish
people,
weren't considered white when they first came over. The Irish weren't considered white until the late 1800s. So I just want to know what this white thing is. And you said it's from Europe, so it contradicts. There's a contradiction there. Italians weren't considered white really until the 1930s and 40s, sir. They weren't considered white. So
the idea that Irish were not considered white is a silly myth that has been circulated by people who should know. Now, let me finish. Wait. No. Let me finish.
White, we're not white. Okay.
Mr. Nasheed, let me finish.
Go ahead, Jared. Okay.
The British hated and despised the Irish for a whole host of reasons, one being colonialism, one being the fact that they were Catholic. They did not like them and they did not want them coming into the United States, but no one would ever have suggested that they were some race other than white. Yes. The idea that some kind of magic, they suddenly became white.
They would say that the Irish were simian. They would say that they were an ape-like race. If you look up simian Irish, you would see Irish looking like monkeys. They would say they were a whole other species. Look at the Notre Dame logo. It's a fighting Irish who has a simian-like face. They've always had that negative stereotype of the Irish. White supremacy has a racial hierarchy.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. It's white on top. You might have the Asians on the next, Arabs here, Hispanic whites here, and blacks have always been on the bottom. Blacks got to be on the bottom because black people, we have the genetic capacity to annihilate the entire planet sexually. Because when we procreate with you, the offspring is going to be non-white. So black people are a greater genetic threat. So we have to be on the bottom. White supremacy is crystallized on how black people are mistreated. This is why when you bring Asians over, the Asians start doing their little nigger jokes when they get around you. So all these other groups are, now that we have Trump in office, people are becoming more open about white supremacy now, this day and age, right now, 2018. They are now.
Who, for example, who is an open white supremacist now?
Well, you're an open white supremacist, Richard Spencer.
No, wait. I have no desire to dominate or mistreat anybody. Who do you think I want to mistreat? Do you think I want to mistreat you?
But yeah, you kind of justify that, Jared. And
I don't justify it at all. I don't want anybody mistreated.
But you say that black people have an inferior IQ. And if we have an inferior IQ, you must have a superior IQ. So that, by definition, is white supremacy, right?
Wait. No, not at all. You said it means to dominate and mistreat. Those things are very important. I don't want to dominate or mistreat anyone of any race.
But you justify it. I just pointed out.
I'm not justifying it at all. I'm entirely opposed to
it. That's mistreating people based on race. You just justified Peter Liang killing somebody who was black. You made an excuse for murder. And that's justifying mistreatment, sir. Finding ways to justify mistreating black people, that's white supremacy. You can call it it ultimately ends up mistreating black people, and there's always a justification for it, sir.
Wait. If I look at the evidence and I conclude that black people, on average, have an IQ that is lower than that of white people, and I think the evidence for this is overwhelming. And if I say this in public, I become a pariah. Charles Murray, who has written about this, cannot speak on a college campus without being shouted down by white people.
They have Clarence Thomas on the Supreme Court.
Is he a white supremacist?
He's a mascot for white supremacy.
Is he a white supremacist?
No, you cannot be a black white supremacist. You can't.
I see.
He's a mascot for white supremacy. You can't be a black white supremacist. You can be a tool for white supremacy, and that's what he is, a tool.
All right, but a Hispanic can be a white supremacist.
Yes, they can. Understand? Hispanic, they identify with Spain. They don't identify with the Native American roots. The root word is Spain. Spain is still in Europe, and they identify with that. And the white supremacists, they give them this on and off back and forth cat and mouse status, but ultimately it's a family dispute between other white people.
Wait. So Puerto Ricans, they affiliate, they think of themselves as Spaniards. Is that right?
Yes, many of them do. Many of them do. As a matter of
They
fact,
think they're Spaniards.
when you go to these countries, you see the darker Puerto Ricans are dominated and mistreated by the lighter Puerto Ricans because the lighter Puerto Ricans see themselves as white, sir.
Okay. And by seeing themselves as white, that makes them white, and they become the mascots and the tools of the real white supremacists. Okay, I understand. Now, do you remember James Watson? He's the co-discoverer of DNA. Now, he was probably the most famous living scientist in the world. And he started talking about race differences in IQ, and he concluded that perhaps black people, for genetic reasons, are less intelligent than whites. Now, you may recall that he was absolutely pilloried. All the white people practically in America got on his back and said, no, you can't talk about that. And he lost his job, he lost all kind of his prestige, he's disappeared from sight. That will happen to just about any white person in America, no matter how prominent, no matter how prestigious. If he starts talking about racial differences in IQ, out the door. He is considered a moral pariah. Why is that the case if we really are all white supremacists anyway?
The IQ thing was started in Nazi Germany
That's not true.
Be justified to harm people who were classified as non-white then. Yes, it was. They used IQ to justify putting people in concentration camps. Yes, they did.
Wait, IQ goes back to before the First World War. That's before Nazi Germany. Sanford Binet, the Binet test, that goes way back before the Second World War. But my point is this. If, as you believe, the ideas about racial superiority and inferiority are used to justify white dominance over blacks, why is it that anyone in the United States today who openly talks about racial differences in IQ and talks about the lower black IQ becomes a social pariah? Why?
Because it's not true. That's why, and it can be debunked.
What? But you say all the white supremacists believe it.
Jared, but it can be debunked. That's the problem. See, that's what the clash is. It can be debunked. Like, Jared, I've heard you say that black people have a low IQ and there was nothing in Africa, and black people didn't have two-story buildings, and there was no will, and they couldn't tame beasts of burden. So all that stuff is so easily debunked. This is why people, a lot of times when they take these white extremists, we look at them as pariahs because that information is just not true.